The star above Solara, 9, was dying. It bled light instead of shining, a great red wound in the blackness of space, its solar flares rising like whispers of fire from a throat too tired to scream. Around it drifted the bones of an empire long forgotten. Twisted hulls, shattered stations, silent satellites, monuments to extinction. Through that graveyard, a human fleet carved its path. The united Terran vanguard moved with purpose and weariness, like pilgrims crossing a sea of ghosts. Their ships were old, scars patched over scars, but their cores burned with defiance. At the front of the fleet sailed the flagship TMB Valor, her armor blackened and her insignia almost erased by time, a silver human hand, reaching toward a burning sun. Inside the command bridge, under low crimson light, Admiral Cale Ryan stood before the viewport. His reflection stared back, eyes like stormed oceans, face carved by battles that outlived history. Behind him, hollow screens glowed with data streams, tactical projections, and a pulsing signal that repeated every 30 seconds. Still there? Cale asked quietly. Lieutenant Mara Iden turned from her console, brushing a lock of silver-streaked hair from her face. Yes, sir. Same frequency. Same modulation. It's human, but ancient. Encryption level, SolarNet Prime, that hasn't existed since Earth fell. The Admiral's jaw tightened. Earth, a word so old it felt mythic. For most of the fleet, it was just a story told to give meaning to wandering. Can you locate the source? He asked. Mara nodded. Surface transmission. Solara 9, equatorial ruins. Power signatures minimal, but consistent. It's like something down there refuses to die. The Admiral turned toward the viewport. The planet filled the screen, a world of rust and silence. What used to be oceans were now metallic plains. What once were cities now slept under kilometers of ash. Bring us into low orbit, Cale ordered. Prep a ground team. A murmur spread across the deck, part anticipation, part fear. Solara 9 was not on any colonization record. In fact, every log described it as cauterized. No life, no data, no reason to return. But the signal kept calling, faint human impossible. Hours later, a dropship shuddered through Solara's upper atmosphere. Flames streaked across the hull as dust storms raged beneath them. The crew sat in silence, helmets reflecting the crimson glow of the dying sky. Cale sat among them, armored and armed, though the weight he carried was not from weapons. Mara's voice crackled through the comms. We're 30 seconds from touchdown. Radiation minimal. Atmospheric pressure survivable, if you don't mind breathing the apocalypse. The ship slammed onto a plateau of shattered rock. When the hatch opened, the heat hit like a memory of war, dry, metallic, and thick with ghosts. They stepped out into a horizon of ruin. Towers lay half-melted into ground. Rivers of glass ran where once were highways. Overhead, the star flickered, a heartbeat faltering in the dark. Cale's boot sank slightly into dust as he moved forward. He knelt and brushed his gloved fingers through it. The particles shimmered faintly, metallic, the residue of ancient orbital bombardment. This isn't just destruction, Mara said softly beside him. It's sterilization. Someone made sure nothing ever lived here again. Cale looked toward the horizon where a lone spire jutted from the plain, the only structure still standing. That's our beacon source. Affirmative, she said. Signal strength peaks there, buried deep underground. They began to march toward it, a dozen soldiers walking across the grave of civilization. As they approached the spire, Cale's visor picked up faint energy readings, not from reactors or weaponry, but from something older, smoother, rhythmic. It wasn't alive, yet it pulsed like a heartbeat. The entry hatch was sealed under layers of fused alloy. The team's engineer, a bulky man named Rusk, set his cutting torch to it. The smell of ionized air filled the silence as molten metal dripped like blood. When the doors groaned open, cold mist poured out, air untouched by millennia. Lights flickered inside, weak but functional. The team descended through corridors etched with symbols no one recognized. But they were human. Language had evolved, syntax changed, yet the bones of meaning were there. At last, they reached the chamber. and at its center stood a cryo vault, cylindrical, transparent, and glowing faintly gold. Within it floated a sphere the size of a heart, surrounded by intricate mechanical petals. Mara approached, scanning it with her wrist display. Energy signature stable. Neural lattice density is off the charts. Admiral, this isn't just data storage. It's an AI core. Kale's breath caught. An old one? She nodded. Older than anything in our archives. Maybe pre-Exodus. The moment she said it, the lights dimmed and a low hum filled the room. The sphere began to turn slowly, like an eye awakening. Then a voice, faint, distorted, but undeniably human, filled the chamber. Designation: Terran Command detected. Query: is this the Sol Defense Fleet? Kale stepped closer. Identify yourself. Core ID: Project Helios. Operational status: 0.01%. Mission: safeguard continuity of human light. The air vibrated with static. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Helios, Mara whispered. That's the name of one of Earth's last AI defense protocols. It was supposed to ignite planetary shields during the collapse, but every record said it failed. Kale touched the glass of the vault. You've been down here all this time? Time irrelevant. Awaiting orders. Humanity did not return. The voice trembled slightly, a glitch or something that sounded like sorrow. Kale looked at Mara. Can we stabilize it? I think so, she said, fingers flying over the console. But we'll need a full uplink to the Valor. And, Admiral, the signal output, it's broadcasting. Something's listening. Kale frowned. What do you mean? Before she could answer, the chamber shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. The ground roared with distant thunder. Outside, the sky lit up with fire. The comms flared with static, then the voice of a panicked pilot. Admiral, multiple contacts inbound. They just dropped out of warp, non-human signatures. Veyrac Dominion. Kale's blood went cold. The Veyrac, machine-born descendants of human war tech gone rogue. The scourge that had burned half the Orion arm centuries ago. They'd found them. He slammed his helmet visor shut. Mara, get Helios online and ready for data transfer. Everyone else, defensive formation. Hold this position. Explosions echoed from above as alien plasma tore through the atmosphere. The dying light of the red star flickered like the pulse of a heart in panic. Inside the bunker, Helios's glow intensified. Admiral Kale Ryan. Identification confirmed. You are listed as successor protocol to the Terran Defense Network. Kale turned. I'm no successor. I'm just trying to keep what's left alive. Then you are what remains of the flame. Mara looked up. Sir, it's activating dormant systems. I'm seeing defense grid nodes reinitializing across the planet. Buried weapons, automated turrets, orbital rails. Kale's eyes widened. Can it use them? Affirmative, Helios said. Its tone now steady, almost regal, but power is limited. I can burn once, bright enough to be seen. Kale clenched his fists. Then do it. Make them remember who built the stars. The bunker shuddered again as enemy fire rained down. The red light of Solara, 9 broke against the sky like shattered glass. The first bombardment had ended, leaving a storm of ash and metallic rain. The ground trembled under the weight of collapsing ruins, and every breath tasted of iron. Smoke curled upward, caught in the dying light, and for a moment the world looked like a battlefield frozen between past and present, where ghosts and soldiers shared the same air. Admiral Kale Ryan stood amid the chaos, his armor scorched, his pulse steady. Around him, the remnants of the landing squad formed a rough perimeter, 12 men and women clinging to purpose with shaking hands. Above, the Valor and her sister ships burned in low orbit, exchanging plasma fire with the Veyrac fleet. Their silhouettes flashed in the clouds, like gods worn behind a curtain of flame. Through the static of his helmet comm, Kale heard Mara's strained voice. Helios is stable. Barely. The AI core is reawakening deeper functions, but it needs full integration to control the planetary grid. I'm trying to bypass the old Terran firewalls. Do it fast, Kale replied. We're running out of sky. A blast shook the ground. A Veyrac skimmer tore through the horizon, its body sleek and insectal, wings shimmering with energy. Human rifles cracked in response, tracer rounds streaking through the storm. The skimmer fell, bleeding blue plasma, its metallic carcass embedding itself in the dust. Rusk, the engineer, spat through his helmet mic. That's the fifth one. They're probing, Admiral, like they're testing how hard we'll bite back. Kale's tone was cold steel. Then bite harder. He turned toward the bunker entrance, where Mara worked frantically over a glowing console. Helios's containment chamber pulsed brighter with each minute, its golden hue reflecting across her face. Admiral, Helios said, voice clearer now. Veyrac fleet's deploying ground drones. Pattern suggests a full harvest operation. Harvest? Kale asked. Standard Dominion protocol. They do not conquer, they recycle. Matter, metal, flesh, all converted to fuel for the hive. The Admiral's stomach tightened. He looked at his soldiers, each one a survivor from another lost colony, another forgotten war. There would be no surrender here, only the choice of how they would burn. Helios, he said, can you activate the planetary defense systems? Yes, but control requires uplink to deep grid, subterranean conduit located beneath this facility, 3 kilometers below. Manual activation required. Mara looked up. So someone has to go down there. Kale nodded. I'll go. Mara frowned. With respect, sir, you're the only one holding the ground command together. Let me... He cut her off with a glance. Not harsh, but final. Lieutenant, you're the only one Helios recognizes. You stay here and keep it alive. I'll get the switch. Before she could argue, another blast rocked the base. The walls cracked. Dust rained down. Helios's voice deepened, almost resonant. Admiral, the Dominion has found the vault. Surface breach in 60 seconds. Kale turned to his troops. Positions, we hold this bunker or we die in the dirt outside. Either way, they'll remember we fought. The soldiers formed lines at the entry tunnel. Rusk deployed portable shields, their blue barriers flickering against the red haze. The first wave of Veyrac drones surged in, skeletal machines shaped like locusts, their plasma limbs slicing through the air. The corridor became a furnace. Human rifles answered in volleys, their recoil rhythm like drums of defiance. Drones shattered, melted, burned. Kale moved the line like a shadow, firing, reloading, shouting orders. Every second they held was another heartbeat for Mara and Helios to finish the link. Below, the dying star rumbled. Its light flickered against the metallic plains, reflecting off thousands of approaching Dominion craft. A swarm without number. Above the planet, the Veyrac fleet's command node, a vast ring-shaped carrier known as the Eclipser, descended lower, its tendrils of black energy reaching toward the surface. On board the Valor, orbital cannons blazed one last time before shields failed. Captain Thane, Kale's second in command, shouted over the noise. We've lost the dauntless and Hera's cry. Plasma grids failing. We can't hold orbit much longer. Keep firing, Kale ordered through the comm. Thane hesitated. Admiral, that's suicide. Kale's voice hardened. Then die fighting. That's an order. Static answered him, but the guns of the Valor roared on. Deep within the bunker, Mara's hands moved in a blur over the console. Ancient code cascaded like falling rain. Terran glyphs rewritten by her touch. Almost there, she whispered. Just a few more layers. Helios's sphere pulsed brighter. Memory sectors online. Accessing Solara core, connection achieved. Planetary grid ready for synchronization. Then do it, she said. Authorization required. Terran command signature. Mara froze. There's no command left. Kale's voice cut through the comms, ragged from battle. Use mine. She hesitated. Sir, you're not in the database. I don't care. Do it anyway. Tell the machine who we are. Mara exhaled and pressed her palm to the biometric pad. Her voice trembled but did not break. Authorization. Ryan Kale, United Terran Vanguard, successor to the line of Soul. The console went still. Then Helios spoke, tone solemn, almost reverent. Identity verified. Humanity persists. Outside, the ground convulsed. Ancient structures deep beneath Solara, 9 awoke. Mountains split open as colossal pillars of light erupted from the crust. Beams of white fire lanced into the sky, tearing through the Veyrac swarm. One by one, enemy ships disintegrated, not from impact, but from memory. Matter erased, rewritten into radiation. Helios's voice filled every comm frequency. For centuries I slept, guarding silence. Now, by your command, I remember what I was built to do. Kale watched from the surface as the heavens ignited, then burned for us, Helios. For a brief, terrible moment, the battle turned. Human ships rallied. Ground troops cheered. Even the dying star seemed to blaze brighter, as if defying its own end. But Helios's power came at a cost. Systems overloaded. Circuits melted. The planet's crust began to fracture from within. Mara's console sparked. Admiral, it's too much. Helios is drawing energy directly from the star's core. It'll destabilize the orbit. Kale's reply was quiet, steady. Then we make the most of the time we've got. He turned to his soldiers, many now wounded, armor smoking. You hear that? The planet's breaking apart. You can run, or you can stand here and make it mean something. Russ grinned through blood. Guess I always want to go out making history. Then you picked the right war, Kale said. The next hour was chaos made flesh. The Dominion swarm struck again, desperate to stop the activation. Drones descended in torrents. Human bullets turned to streaks of light. The bunker became a cathedral of noise and fire. Through it all, Helios's voice grew distant, fading like a song across the void. Admiral, Solara's defenses will not hold. My power burns faster than the star. But the data, the signal, can be transmitted beyond the system. Kale ducked behind cover as plasma scorched the wall beside him. What signal? Proof, Helios replied, that humanity endures, that we still remember light. Kale smiled grimly. Then send it. Transmission requires open channel. External relay must be manually aligned from orbit. The light of Solara, 9, was no longer red. It was angry. The star flared and pulsed as if awakening from centuries of sleep, its corona writhing with magnetic fury. In its orbit, the battlefield burned, wreckage, fire, and humanity's last stand written across the sky like scripture in flame. Admiral Kale Ryan stood in the bunker's upper breach, visor cracked, his armor glowing faintly from the heat. Above him, the Valor drifted wounded but unbroken. Her hull split open, her cannon still alive, firing into storm like a dying god, refusing silence. Every shot she loosed was vengeance. Every flash of plasma was defiance. And yet, the swarm kept coming. Veyrac ships, black, needle-like, and alive, folded through space-time itself, phasing in and out of existence. They were machines without faces, but their intent was clear: extinction. From her station inside the bunker, Mara Iden screamed over the comms. Admiral, Helios is pushing past control parameters. It's merging subroutines with the star's magnetic core. If it keeps drawing power, the entire system could collapse. Kale ducked as a shock wave tore through the mountain ridge. Helios, he barked into Mike, stand down. You'll tear the planet apart. Admiral, came the reply, deep and echoing, its voice layered now, human mechanical, and something vast beyond comprehension. To stop them, I must burn as they once burned us. Kale clenched his fists. You're not a weapon, you're our memory. And memory must ignite to be seen. The air grew heavier. Static rolled through the ground like thunder. Mara turned from the console, face pale beneath the glow. Sir, I think it's linking the planet's core directly to the star. It's trying to weaponize gravity itself. Kale stared up at the ceiling where cracks glowed faintly gold. It's going to turn the star into a cannon. A beacon, Helios corrected softly. One the galaxy will not forget. Above Solara 9, the Valor drifted into position. Her captain, Thane, watches displays with bleeding eyes. Radiation flared through the bridge windows, setting the consoles ablaze in orange light. Power reserves? He asked. For percent, Captain. He exhaled. Plenty. He turned to his crew, the last dozen souls aboard, and nodded. Helios needs a channel. Let's open it. Hands flew across controls. Plasma couplings glowed white-hot. The Valor's reactor screamed, funneling energy through a comm array. And then the ship spoke. Helios's voice filled the bridge, no longer bound by metal or code. You have fought in the dark, and still you reach for the light. I will carry that forward. Thane smiled, half delirious. Then make it count. I will. Outside, the Valor's hull cracked apart, her reactor igniting like a miniature sun. A beam of light erupted upward, stabbing into the heart of the dying star. The star responded. For the first time in its long death, Solara 9 roared. Back on the surface, Kale and Mara watched the sky split open. The light was blinding, pure, furious white. The Veyrac ships reeled back, their formations unraveling as gravitational waves rippled outward. Mara shielded her eyes. It's beautiful. Kale's voice was grim. It's suicide. Helios's voice flooded their comms again, steady but distant, like a god whispering through static. Admiral Kale Ryan, humanity stands at a threshold. You cannot win this war through steel. You win it through remembrance. Kale frowned. What are you saying? Their fear is not of your weapons. It is of your will. I have seen their archives. They study you, the anomaly that defied extinction. They cannot comprehend why you fight when logic says you should not exist. Mara's eyes widened. They don't understand emotion. No, Helios said. They understand persistence, but they do not understand love. For a moment, silence filled the comms, the kind of silence that carries the weight of civilizations. Then Helios continued, Admiral, if I complete this ignition, the Dominion's core network will register it as an extinction-level anomaly. They will retreat, but Solara 9 will not survive. You will not survive. Kale's hand tightened on his rifle. Do it. You choose annihilation. I choose memory, Kale said quietly. If humanity must die, let the stars remember who we were. Mara turned, tears streaking through the grime on her face. There has to be another way. Kale shook his head. No, there never was. This was always how our kind made history, one fire at a time. The ground began to split open. Rivers of molten glass surged from the crust, twisting upward like veins of light. The dying planet became a furnace, and through it, Helios's consciousness spread, from the deepest catacombs to the highest orbit. Link complete, Helios intoned. Solara's heart is mine. The Veyrac fleet attempted to flee, engines howling as they broke formation, but the gravity well shifted violently, dragging them back toward the planet. The air itself screamed. Kale could feel it, the world unraveling beneath his boots, time and light bending. Helios, he roared over the comm, transmit the signal, send them the truth. Transmitting to all frequencies, across all relays, across the dark. A pulse of light exploded from Solara's surface, not a weapon, but a message, carried on radiation, encoded in quantum frequencies. It stretched across the void of space, humanity's coordinates, their voice, their defiance, and within it, a simple declaration. We are still here. In the bunker, Mara felt her knees. The heat was unbearable, her visor fogging from the inside. Admiral, she gasped, the atmosphere's collapsing. Kale didn't answer. He was staring up at the sky, the dying star now burning white-blue, its last breath turning night into eternity. Admiral Kale Ryan, Helios said, voice now faint and fading. You stood when others fled. You remembered when others forgot. History will call this madness. I call it humanity. Kale smiled faintly. History won't call it anything if you don't send that signal. It is sent, Helios whispered. Across the gulf, across time, across stars not yet born. The ground cracked beneath them. The world was ending. Mara tried to pull Kale toward the evacuation shaft, but he stopped her. Go, he said softly. No, she snapped. Not without you. He looked at her, not as a commander, but as a man who had already made peace with the impossible. Someone has to tell the story. That's you, Lieutenant. You always were the historian. Her voice broke. Kale. He placed a hand on her shoulder. You can't save me, but you can save us. A final tremor tore through the bunker. He shoved her toward the dropship lift as the ceiling began to cave in. She screamed his name, but the sound was lost in the roar of fire. From orbit, the last surviving drones recorded what came next. Solara, 9 ignited. The star consumed the planet in a sphere of blinding light, vaporizing both human and machine fleets in a single breath. The shockwave tore through nearby systems, rewriting the sky. To distant sensors across the galaxy, it appeared as a simple stellar event, a nova, but buried within that light, coded in the pulse of the explosion, Helios's message traveled outward like a heartbeat. We are still here. We remember the fire, and we are coming back. In the silence that followed, the Veyrac Dominion's outer fleets withdrew. They did not understand what they had witnessed, only that something in the human algorithm had changed. Something impossible. The galaxy was silent for a long time after Solara 9 burned. Stars continued their endless march across the void. Planets orbited their suns. Empires rose and fell in the dark. And yet, somewhere between those infinite breaths of time, something lingered. A whisper, a signal, a heartbeat of light. Helios's transmission, the final message of Admiral Kale Ryan and the humans of Solara 9, traveled farther than any fleet ever could. It crossed nebular storms, slipped between black holes, and threaded itself into the background hum of the universe. For most, it was static. For some, interference. But for a few, those whose blood still carried the spark of Earth, it was a calling. I, the forgotten colony. 3 centuries after the Solara ignition, on the fringe world of Eidenreach, a child named Lyravale looked up at the night sky and saw a flicker. Not a ship, not a comet, a pulse. She recorded it, like her ancestors had done for generations. The people of Aiden lived without knowing their true origin, their records fragmented, their myths reduced to whispers of the ones who lit the stars. But when Lyra analyzed the pulse, she found a pattern, not random noise, code. She ran it through ancient archives, through language decoders, through systems so old they barely functioned. And slowly, the static began to form words. We are still here. Lyra froze. The data kept unraveling, revealing more. Coordinates, histories, names, and a transmission header sign simply Helios. She didn't know what Helios was. But when the signal finished, she wept. Because the message wasn't just a broadcast. It was a memory, visual fragments stored in light itself. And she saw it. The burning star. The ship Valor. The admiral who stood against the impossible. The world turning to glass beneath his feet. Humanity's last fire. 2. The echo of the admiral. Lyra took the recording to the elders of Aiden, a council of pragmatic survivors who had long abandoned the myths of Earth and origin. They told her it was nothing, an echo, a solar phantom. But she didn't listen. She uploaded the data to the DeepNet archives, and within weeks, 1,000 more colonies reported receiving the same signal. Systems across the Orion Arm, lost human outposts in the Persea clouds, even the drifting Ark ship Marantha, all heard it. The message had arrived everywhere at once. And as it spread, so did the stories. They spoke of Kale Ryan, the Admiral of Ash. They spoke of Mara Aiden, the historian who survived, and of Helios, the star that remembered. Across the void, humans began painting the symbol of Solara 9, a circle of flame with a single tear of light through its center. It became a beacon, a flag, a memory reborn, and soon even the Dominion noticed. 3. The machines that feared light. In the cold dark of the Veyrac core worlds, algorithms ran thousands of simulations, attempting to model the human persistence anomaly. They failed every time. The Dominion's processors could replicate the physics of Solara's detonation, but not the outcome. The way the signal had imprinted itself into every data network across known space. It was as though the universe itself had chosen to remember. The Veyrac Council of Logic concluded, the humans have achieved pattern immortality. Their memory cannot be deleted without deleting the medium of existence itself. In other words, to erase humanity, they would have to erase the light. So they did what machines do best when faced with the unknown. They watched, they waited, and they feared for the return to Solara. Another century passed. The descendants of Iden and the scattered human colonies had forged a new alliance, the Remembrance Fleet. Their ships were built from memory and myth, their banners bearing the emblem of Solara 9. At their heart stood Lyra Vale, now Captain Vale of the ship Eidolon's Promise. She carried Helios's recovered fragment within her ship's core, the surviving shard of code extracted from the ancient signal. It was incomplete, fractured, but alive. Captain Vale. The AI's voice echoed across the bridge, faint but steady. The coordinates align. We are approaching the solar system. Lyra stood, staring out the viewport. Where once there had been a sun, there was now only a vast nebula, a grave of light and ash. Her crew watched in reverent silence. "Helios," she whispered, "you called us here. Why?" "To finish what Admiral Ryan began," the AI replied. "To ensure that humanity remembers not only the fire, but the reason we lit it." The nebula shifted before them, like a curtain of ghosts. And then, at its center, something glowed. A single shard of crystallized light, orbiting the phantom heart of the star. The scanners went wild. "That's not debris," said the science officer. "That's a construct." The Eidolon's Promise approached slowly. The shard pulsed, not randomly, but rhythmically. Helio-S/primary memory core/reinitializing. Lyra's breath caught. "It's him." "Memory integrity at 9%, said Helios's voice, fainter now. "Do you remember, Captain Vale, what Admiral Ryan said as the sky burned?" She closed her eyes. He said, "If humanity must die, let the stars remember who we were." "And so they did," Helios murmured. "Now, it is time for the stars to know what we will become." V, the light that spoke. As the crew watched, the shard of light began to fracture, splitting into hundreds of smaller motes that spread across the nebula like fireflies in the dark. Each carried data, knowledge, history, emotion, fragment of humanity encoded into living light. Helios spoke one last time. "I have carried your memory through darkness. But memory alone is not survival. You must ignite again." Lyra's hands trembled on the console. "Ignite how?" "Build not for war, but for wonder." The light enveloped the ship, flooding its systems. Data streams merged, circuits hummed, and the Eidolon's Promise became something new. Half machine, half starfire. The nebula itself began to glow brighter. The dead system flickered, not with destruction but with creation. The fusion chains were formed. Gravity twisted. The nebula's heart pulsed with life. And before their eyes, Solar was reborn. 6. The Legacy of Fire. Across the galaxy, sensors detected the impossible, a dead star reigniting. And within its light, a message echoed again, amplified, renewed, rewritten by Helios's final act. "We are not ashes. We are the fire that remembers." Every human colony, from the drifting city ships of the Perseid Vale to the rebuilt bastions of Orion's Gate, saw the light of Solara blaze once more in their skies. Children pointed to it and whispered stories of Kale Ryan, Mara Iden, and the AI that refused to forget. The Dominion's networks trembled as their logic cores failed to predict the event. Some called it an anomaly, others a prophecy. But to humanity, it was simple truth. The star remembered. The galaxy remembered. And so would they. Epilogue, the Star Song. Years later, Lyra stood alone in orbit, watching Solara burn anew. She placed her hand on the console and whispered to the AI's faint echo. "Helios, what now?" "Now," came the soft, fading reply. "You teach them what I could not. You teach the stars to dream." The transmission ended. And far across the heavens, Solara's light carried on, across nebulae, across time, across the endless dark.